So who's my guest this week? It's the US Attorney, Gloria Allred. She calls herself an avenger for women's rights, and one glance at her CV gives that claim serious weight. Over the last 40 years, if there's been a high-profile sexual assault case in America, it's likely Allred's been the lawyer for some of the victims. A lifelong campaigner for equality, she represented Roe after the Roe v. Wade case. She's not without her critics, who say she's as interested in publicity as she is justice. But undeterred, at 81 years old, she has no intention of retiring. So as America grapples with abortion rights again, what does she make of that Supreme Court ruling? Here's a taste of what's coming up. In 2020, you hired a yellow American school bus to drive around London near Buckingham Palace. Prince Andrew's face was on it with a sign, "If you see this man, please ask him to call the FBI to answer their questions." Is that matter now closed, or are there other avenues?
He, to this day, has never agreed to sit with the FBI. He should be ashamed of himself that he refuses to do it. He's avoided, he's evaded, he's escaped doing it.
Gloria Allred, thank you so much for talking to me, for taking some time out of your busy schedule. It's wonderful to be able to talk to you about such a range of issues today. And of course, America and women's rights are global news. And I wanted to start by asking you, are you proud to be an American at the moment?
Well, I'm always very grateful that my mother came from the UK to the United States, and that I was able to grow up here, and I do have a lot of confidence in our system of justice and of rights, but I'm very, very disappointed. I'm very outraged about what has happened recently with the United States Supreme Court decision in Roe v. Wade, but it was inevitable given some serious flaws in our system.
Yes, I mean, that's what's been talked about in terms of the way the justices are appointed, the political leanings. I suppose I wanted to ask you also, with that decision, as an attorney, do you have any sympathy with the view that abortion shouldn't have been a constitutional right and that there may be merit in having state-by-state laws?
There's absolutely no merit whatsoever in throwing the decision that a woman should or should not be able to have an abortion to the states. It should and has been a constitutional right for a woman to choose whether or not to bear a pregnancy, and that has been the law ever since 1973, when Roe v. Wade was decided by the United States Supreme Court, and that a woman did have a right to choose whether or not to continue with her pregnancy, at least at certain stages of her pregnancy. It's very dangerous. It is barbaric. It is just an outrage and cruel to throw this decision to the states. I'll give you an example, Emma.
Okay, yes, please.
Prior to 1973, and prior to Roe v. Wade decision, many states were criminalizing abortion. So young women like me, who were in their 20s and had no resources, would have to try to gather some money to pay as someone to provide a back alley abortion. So I was raped at gunpoint in Mexico when I went there for a vacation. When I came back to California, this was in the late 60s, I found that I was pregnant and that it was a crime for anyone to assist with an abortion in California. So I had to get some money together for a back alley abortionist who did provide the abortion, but left me in a bathtub, hemorrhaging in a pool of my own blood. And he said that he could not help me after the abortion. 911 was called to take me to the hospital. And there I was taken to a unit where they would try to save a woman's life if she was hemorrhaging from an abortion. Police came and interviewed me, which was very frightening to me because I didn't know if the name I would give them would be the name of the real person who provided it, or if I should give a name at all for fear that he would do something to me if I gave the name, which I didn't. I was packed in ice. I had a 106-degree fever. I almost died from an illegal abortion. And the nurse, who was anti-choice, said to me, "I hope this teaches you a lesson." And I say that it did teach me a lesson. And the lesson is that abortion should be safe and legal and available and affordable. And no woman or girl should have to risk her life with an illegal abortion.
I was just going to say, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I know you've spoken about your experiences because they are very relevant and, highly traumatic, and you don't want to go back to that place. But one of the arguments mounted by those who are in favour of this decision is, well, women can travel, women can go to other states. But of course, if they don't have the means, like you're saying, and they don't, have the wherewithal or can't get in touch with those who can help them, then they won't be able to. And I just wanted to ask you, are you expecting as an attorney to have some clients now who come to you who may end up, this hasn't happened yet, being prosecuted for either ordering abortion pills online or trying to cross state boundaries? How concerned are you about that?
Well, you raise another very important issue, actually, a number of important issues. So, for example, you just mentioned medication abortions. Medication abortions are about half of all of the abortions in the United States. The anti-choice movement, the movement that believes that a fertilized egg should have more rights than an adult woman, is trying to interfere with medication abortions. For example, to suggest to legislators that the pill can only be sent if a doctor is seen in person, which many women are not able to do. It also invades their privacy because we are also concerned by the anti-choice forces trying to obtain medical records to find out when a woman is menstruating. You also mentioned the right to travel to other states, Emma. That's a significant issue. There are many poor women who can't afford childcare. These are just some of the problems that are now existing for a woman to travel to another state. Of course, wealthy women will always be able to travel to another state or another country like Canada to get an abortion.
Indeed. And on those issues and the complications that are going to arise, do you think Joe Biden has done enough to demonstrate to the women of America who are of your view and are worried about this, that this is not okay, that this is not the America that he wants to preside over? Has he done enough?
I think that the president knows that there are so many challenges now facing women and girls because of this dangerous decision. He has very limited ability to do anything. The main challenge is that we're going to have to get everyone to come out to vote in the upcoming election. We must remember in November is our clarion call, our clarion cry for justice. What that means is that pro-choice voters are going to have to vote in both federal and state elections for pro-choice elected officials. And we must throw out of office the anti-choice compulsory pregnancy crowd that is passing these restrictive and dangerous laws in the states and also is causing essentially paralysis in the Congress and the United States Senate. We must elect more pro-choice United States senators and representatives in the House of Representatives as well.
I mean, I was minded to bring up to you a very striking remark. She's known for them, from Fran Lebowitz, the writer and commentator. She's recently compared the Republican Party to the Taliban regarding control over women's bodies. What do you make of that comparison?
Well, I can understand why she said it. I mean, because this is controlling women's choices and their lives. It's often been said, Emma, that if we cannot control our lives from the skin in, we cannot control our lives from the skin out. And this is about even more than reproductive choice, because not being able to choose what we do with our own bodies means that there is going to be interference with our educational opportunities, our business opportunities, our physical opportunities, our emotional opportunities, and it is going to have a draconian impact on each and every woman's life. We cannot go back. We will not go back. And we must have a passion to fight back, to win back our rights.
I wanted to just come to Norma McCorvey, who was Roe in this case. You later represented her, you worked with her, but she later, despite having become, once her name was known, synonymous with this case that granted women, until recently, constitutional rights to abortion, she changed sides publicly. She went against choice. She went against abortion. And then it was revealed that she'd been paid by that side of the debate to assume that position. Just before she died, that was revealed. Did you know she had been paid? What did you make of that whole episode, having known the woman who was known as Roe?
Look, every woman gets to make the choice that she wants to make. I don't control any woman's choice. I don't try to do that. That's what the anti-choice people do. So yes, was it disappointing? Of course. But, did I try to coerce her? That's not my role. It's not anybody's role. But she admitted the truth in the end. I'm glad that she did it.
Let me bring you to another area of your work, which is representing victims of sexual abuse and sexual assault, because recently Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years for recruiting and trafficking 14 girls for sexual abuse, of course, in connection to Jeffrey Epstein. It's very striking, although a woman has gone to prison, that we still don't know the names of the other men involved.
Yeah, I have no idea what the prosecutors have in mind. Federal prosecutors hold their cards very, very close to their vest, and they're known for that. So I have no idea what they're planning next, or if they're planning anything else in reference to prosecuting any other individuals who might have been involved with Ms. Maxwell and with Jeffrey Epstein.
And just following on from that again about whether something is closed or there could be, further actions because of your experience, I wanted to ask you, but also because of something you did. Coming to Prince Andrew, in 2020, you hired a yellow American school bus to drive around London near Buckingham Palace. I know you remember it. Some others will remember it. Prince Andrew's face was on it saying, with a sign, "If you see this man, please ask him to call the FBI to answer their questions." And as you say, because you were representing some of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Earlier this year, Prince Andrew did come to a settlement with Virginia Giuffre. Prince Andrew's always denied any wrongdoing. Is that matter now closed, or are there other avenues?
I did that because I wanted Prince Andrew to cooperate and give an interview to the FBI about what he knew about Jeffrey Epstein and anything else they wanted to ask about him, since Prince Andrew stayed in many residences owned by Jeffrey Epstein and where young girls were present. He never did that. In other words, he gave an interview to the BBC. That, of course, was not under oath, and it was a complete catastrophe from a PR point of view. I wanted him to sit with the FBI and testify under oath, or even if not under oath, his duty legally would be to tell the truth, which he had no duty to do to the BBC, although it would have been nice. Don't know if he did it or not. He never did it. The civil settlement that you mentioned had nothing to do with the criminal case being prosecuted against Ms. Maxwell, and nothing to do with anything but the criminal justice system. He, to this day, has never agreed to sit with the FBI. He should be ashamed of himself that he refuses to do it. He's avoided, he's evaded, he's escaped doing it. Now the criminal case against Ms. Maxwell will go on appeal, but I say it's never too late for him to sit with the prosecutors. They themselves said that he was not providing an interview.
You're saying you know he didn't sit down with the FBI. That's what's
Yes.
understood. And that, why should he still have a conversation with the FBI? To help which case?
Well, it could open up new cases, that is, provide evidence for new cases.
Right.
So look, anyone who may have any information that is relevant to crimes against children should volunteer to speak to law enforcement, FBI, state law enforcement, anywhere else. Not have to be dragged kicking and screaming or just try to avoid it completely.
Perhaps he would say he doesn't have any information. I mean, he's not here to speak to what you're saying. He has always denied wrongdoing, but perhaps...
Well, that's complete.
That's perhaps his reason.
That is complete and utter nonsense that he has no information whatsoever. He stayed in the residence of Jeffrey Epstein with Jeffrey Epstein when young girls were coming and going from that residence in Manhattan. He also visited other residences of Jeffrey Epstein, other properties. We know that. That's a matter of fact, not speculation. To say that he has no information is just not true, and even he has not dared to say it. It's completely false.
Gloria, when you are on the case for people, largely it's been women, lots of the cases you work on we never hear about, but there are some very high-profile cases. Mm-hmm. You are known for your ability, your mastery to get attention, to pull stunts, to call press conferences, whether it's a school bus, whether it's get people in front of a camera. I'm sure you have to work with those women as well to get them ready for those sorts of situations. What do you make of some of the criticism that you have faced about that approach, that being one of your hallmarks, if you like?
Emma, there are many people who think that women should have to suffer in silence. I'm not one of them. I think that women should have a voice. They should be able to speak truth to power. They should be able to speak out about the injustices against them in an appropriate case, depending on what their goal is, and only after they've been advised of the benefits and risks of that decision, which is what I do.
Have you been disappointed at points by some of the men that you've come up against because maybe you were a fan of their work, you'd enjoyed their music, you'd watched their, I don't know, sporting performance? Have you had that moment that some people have when they hear about somebody, when they're found guilty, and they thought, no, not that person? Have you had that?
Not really.
No?
Because, I'm just very goal-oriented for my clients who are victims. I know that many celebrities lead double lives or triple lives where the character or the brand that they've created are not who they are in real life. And so I don't buy into the fantasy. You can only be disappointed if you have expectations that are different than the reality. My expectations are that often celebrities will take advantage of their celebrity status against vulnerable victims. and often against their own fans, which, is very disturbing, because I always feel that celebrities and powerful people should feel very blessed about the privileges that they have because they are celebrities. And I often say about those celebrity attorneys who represent their clients who are being accused, they represent the Hollywood bad boys, and I represent the women they hurt.
Well, it definitely sounds like it's changed, your whole view of the world that we live in and given it a completely different complexion. Just finally, in that documentary about your life that I'm sure many people will have seen on Netflix, in 2015, I believe, you said you'd had no holidays in 40 years. Have you had one since? I'm hoping perhaps a glimmer of a break here and there.
Well, there's no holiday from injustice.
Oh, come on, Gloria.
No
a little bit of a break.
Me.
A little bit of a break.
When I'm 6 feet under, when that day comes, it will come for all of us. Maybe I'll have some rest at that time, although I am considering many ways that perhaps I can help even from the grave. But we have to fight back for women. It's my duty. I am blessed to have the privilege to help others, to rise up, to become empowered. And that's what this is all about. And I do not need rest. If anything, we have a saying, Emma, that women become more radical as they get older. The women's movement is unique in all movements in that way. And yes, I see even more need after 47 years of practicing law than I did when I began to practice. So I do have a passion for justice. I have no interest in holidays. I only have interest in winning justice, and that is what I will continue to do.
Gloria, I like that. I look forward to getting even more radical and busy as I get older.
And that's because of our life experience. It's not because of any women's studies class we've ever had. Women recognize what is wrong in their lives. And as a matter of fact, when I visit some women in nursing homes and old age homes, they pick up their canes and they say, Gloria, don't stop. When these men attack you, just continue and fight harder. Those women know the truth about their lives, Emma. And I am fighting for all women, young, old, I don't care their color, their religion, their ethnic origin. We want them to rise up and become empowered and fight back. Choose your battles carefully, but fight back, and you can win justice.
Well, on that, I think also the idea of growing old, not disgracefully, but, getting more angry and more active is one. And it's often said women definitely made the personal political as well. Gloria Allred, thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma.
And thank you so much for being with us. Until we meet again, take care and goodbye.